Hi, my name is Pondivida RJS, and today we are going to talk about the brief history and the characteristics of the Philippine literature. There are many literary periods that has passed in our country due to colonization, and the first one, the pre-colonial period, which started in 1564 BC, was where people, before decolonization, made many forms of writing, like their oral literature, which consists of riddles and proverbs, folk songs, which consist of many different genres, like lullabies, songs about death and life, love songs, and mostly religious songs. The last one was the folktale, where it consists of many fables and epics and legends from them. The second period after the pre-colonial was the Spanish period, which started in 1521 until the year 1898, a 300-year colonization that gave our literature more life and darkness into it. In this period, we started making pieces that included more meaning to it, such as the propaganda literature and the revolutionary type of literature. In this period, we also made many religious songs like the Passion, the Comedia, and the Sinakulo. The other form of literature in this is the secular, or also known as the non-religious type of literature, which includes awit, corridos, and the prose narratives.
A brief history and characteristic of English literature, written works created from the 7th century to the present by the residents of British Isles, including Ireland, in the English language. In American literature, Australian literature, Canadian literature, and New Zealand literature, the main literature published in English outside the British Isles is treated separately in all parts of the world. English literature can be found in America, India, Australia, Britain, and several smaller regions, although it shares some features with Western literature. There are some few factors that can make English literature unique. English literature revolves around just a handful of common themes, many of which are shared with Western literature, that describes nearly all its stories.
Philippine literature is literature associated with the Philippines from history, through its colonial legacies and to the present. And these are the 5 examples of most famous writers in the Philippines literature and their works. First is Nick Joaquin. He was a Filipino writer and journalist, best known for his short stories and novels in the English language. He was well known as a historian of the brief golden age of Spain in the Philippines. He also wrote using the pen name Quijano de Manila. He has been considered one of the most important Filipino writers, along with Jose Rizal and Clara M. Recto. The second is Peña Romulo, was a Filipino diplomat, statesman, soldier, journalist, and the author. He was a reporter at 16, a newspaper editor by the age of 20, and a publisher at 32. Romulo in all wrote and published 22 books, which includes the United novel, I Walk with Heroes, I Saw the Fall of the Philippines, Mother America, and I See the Philippines Rise, Wartime Memoirs. And for the lastly is Lualhati Torres Bautista. She is a Filipino novelist. Bautista became a National Fellow for Fiction of the University of the Philippines Creative Writing Center in 1986. She also served as Vice President of the Screenwriters Guild of the Philippines and as a chair of the Kapisanan ng mga manunulat ng nobelang popular. The Bata-Bata Paano Ka Ginawa, literally Child, How Were You Made, narrates the life of Leia, a working mother and a social activist who has 2 children in the end. All 3, and especially Leia, have to confront Philippine society's view of single motherhood.
These are the examples of well-known writers in English literature and their works. William Shakespeare. Many people believe that Shakespeare is the best British writer of all time. His many works are about life, love, death, revenge, grief, jealousy, murder, magic, and mystery. He wrote the blockbuster plays of his day. Some of his most famous are Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, and Hamlet. J.R.R. Tolkien. One of the most popular English writers is J.R.R. Tolkien. The Oxford professor is best remembered for his works The Hobbit and the trilogy of Lord of the Rings. Tolkien was not only a writer of fantasy epics, however, he was a very good linguist too, and did translations of old texts from English. Charles Dickens, the Victorian novelist, was another writer whose characters quickly found their way into the hearts of readers. Many of his books, such as Great Expectations, have also been made into movies. Bleak House, Oliver Twist, and of course the popular Christmas novels are some of his best-known works.
For me, the importance of Philippine literature in its own community is that it can educate people on events that have happened in the past, how it worked then, and if it can be implemented till now. For me, studying this type of literature is quite amusing because it is on my own country, giving me more views up onto what happened then. It also helped me be more acquainted with people who are also interested in the literature. It helped learners gain knowledge and help people practice their critical thinking.
The literature before gave us the history of English, how they live or their way of life, their religions, and their culture, which are very important factor of the national integration. English literature contributes a lot to the establishment of English in the national language. This is very important to the literature work by English author. Nowadays, English literature are still famous to the world, since English is considered as the universal language. Many authors use this language whatever nationality they have. A lot of people also understand English, which helped English literature a lot to be known as popularized around the world.
For me, the literature that I would like to represent is Ibong Adarna, because this story tells everything and shows all the sacrifice and effort of the three young siblings for their father that was gravely ill, and they all willing to set out on the delicate journey just so they can save his life.
I choose the work of J.K. Rowling, the blockbuster movie Harry Potter series, because it is my favorite, and aside from that, this fictional story portrays a lot of knowledge and wisdom.
The similarities of both Philippine literatures and English literatures: historical, biographical approaches, identity, and history and memory. The reason for this is, I would think historical approach are the both literatures have been referring to the reality based on their life and some even events. Identity. Both literatures have an author word that refers readers to themselves. They can be the villain in the story or any type of character they want to present to their own stories. History and memory. Both literatures can be based on histories about their lives, events, values, and many more. Both literatures have authors where they relate about the past or even the memories of them.
The current status of Philippine literature, based on what Bienvenido Santos said on his blog about the Philippine literature today, is that it appears to be a small, tight-knit community. That is too small for a country like us here in the Philippines with almost 70 million people. There are a lot of Filipino writers who have moved to the United States that are using what they learned here in the Philippines, mainly because they are underrated here in our home country. Because whenever they have works here, the criticism is unjust and most of their works are not published because only pleasant words are allowed to come out in print.